welcome to Post Sports Live. I'm your host, Jonathan Forsythe, back from a vacation week off. Thanks for joining us. Joining me here in the studio is Mike Wise and Dan Steinberg. Happy Tuesday, gentlemen.
Thank you, Jonathan.
We are going to lead today's show with national breaking sports news about Dan's favorite NBA player, LeBron James. Sort of a change of pace for us normally to stick to local topics. We're going to get into the Nationals. We'll get into World Cup also later, and also the Capitals. The schedule is released, and we may, if we have time, we'll touch on the Redskins name developments from last week with the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office's decision to cancel the Redskins trademark. Okay, let's start with the top breaking news. Mike, you actually wrote a column about Pat Riley and the Heat and their attempt to keep LeBron James. This morning. It's reported and confirmed that LeBron James has officially opted out of his contract for next year. That does not necessarily mean he's leaving the Heat. Explain.
Correct. Slow your roll, America. LeBron 2.0 is not happening. There's going to be no sequel to the decision. I'd be shocked, actually. Not shocked, but I'd be surprised if he even left Miami. There are not many alternatives. The best thing that could be said about this for LeBron is that he essentially gave the Miami Heat future financial flexibility in which they could lure a player like, Trevor Ariza or somebody of that ilk to help him win another championship and look more competitive against the Spurs than he did in the finals. I don't think he's going to leave Miami, but if he does, I've been told by a couple different people in the NBA, the best scenario for him would be the Los Angeles Clippers. I would say it's a 20% chance this offseason, but it's still a chance, and anytime that there's a chance in the NBA, it can happen.
So he opts out. It gives the Heat more flexibility. Dan, do you believe that, two questions. One, LeBron will be somewhere else next year, and two, if he decided to go somewhere else, would he have a better chance of winning a championship in LA, as Mike mentioned, with the Clippers than he would be by returning to the Heat?
I'm going to do the second one first, and I actually think, no, he would probably, he would certainly have a better roster, but you have to look at the conferences. And then with Miami, he had one obstacle really this year, Indiana, which kind of fell apart at the end of the season, and it wasn't really that much of an obstacle. And so then you're in the NBA Finals, and in a 7-game series, obviously anything can happen. In the West, I think you could probably argue that 6 of the 7 best teams in the NBA this year were in the West, and if he's in LA, that's not going to be appreciably different next year. So I think, no, I don't think his chances are much better, even though he would certainly be on a better team with a better roster. As for the first question, I'm going to defer to Mike and believe that the chances are that he stays. But I also think, this is probably some of my own built-in bias against LeBron, but I think he loves to have everyone talking about him. And I think by doing this today, with the draft 2 days away, he, again, has everyone talking about him. And for 48 hours, they're not going to be talking about Jabari Parker, and they're not going to be talking about Andrew Wiggins. They're going to be talking about LeBron. And I think he loves it that way.
Mike, your thoughts on the same question. So you say stays in Miami, better chance to win in Miami also.
Yeah, agreed and agreed. The West is just going to get better. Golden State's getting better. At least for the time being, Oklahoma City hasn't lost Kevin Durant or Russell Westbrook. They're still growing up. I don't, and the Spurs, Tim Duncan's coming back. So
you can even say the Mavericks gave the Spurs their best series of the playoffs.
Yeah, so, exactly. So all of a sudden you have to go through a gauntlet in the Western Conference. The East is not chopped liver. The Wizards are getting better. They're going to be, hopefully they're going to be a perennial playoff team. Brooks Lopez is coming back with the Nets. Derrick Rose hopefully will be healthy with the Bulls. But there's an easier walk to the finals in the East, and I think he'd get more rest. I don't think he's going to leave Miami. I do think he is an attention whore, and I do think that that's just part of who he is, and it's also part of who his little inner circle is. More importantly, Rich Paul and Maverick Carter, whom he trusts implicitly for good reasons and bad reasons, that he didn't really have a parent growing up, and they became sort of the most loyal people in his life. The moment he kind of moves beyond them, you're going to see a full-figured human being. Until that, you still got this guy who needs people to be talking about.
The lure of L.A. and playing with CP3 and Blake Griffin is just intriguing enough to, tantalizing enough to sort of keep that.
But it's not like he's exactly out of the limelight in Miami.
That's true.
You know what I mean?
But he's been there, done that, won a few championships.
But I don't think he'll go to Chicago. Michael Jordan. I don't care what everybody says. Michael Jordan living down that legend for the rest of his career. No. Cleveland sounds like a sentimental story, but he's not going to go back to. What do they say? You can never go back home. You can if you're LeBron.
That would be interesting if
people say Houston is a possibility too, or something.
Yeah, Houston. And I also think in this way, LeBron is not tone deaf like he used to be. He realizes that if he goes and just searches for championships and teams, he's going to look like a bad guy, and people really won't like him.
And LeVar has made that point in the past about how he moved and sort of cherry-picked his team with Miami, and that should count against him in his legacy.
LeVar made a good point on this show. Shocker. Shocker.
All right, let's move on. Dan, you said nobody's going to be talking about Jabari Parker and Joel Embiid and Andrew Wiggins in the draft. Let's talk about the draft now for a moment. If you're the GM of the Cleveland Cavaliers, who do you take with the top pick, Mr. Steinberg, Thursday night?
You know, the name I'm going to say I think is probably not who they're going to wind up taking, but I think I would take Wiggins at this point. I certainly saw more of Parker than Wiggins because of ACC bias locally, but he was brilliant at times, absolutely brilliant, but he also seemed to sort of disappear at times and to have kind of a weird body language on the court. It's one thing in a year of college, but now there's reports that his workout with the Cavs was terrible and that he seemed disinterested, that he tanked the workout, and that he was overweight, and all these things that are... you're trying to read tea leaves from guys who've only played 1 year of college, but that sort of does not surprise me based on some of the stuff we saw in college. I don't know. My gut feeling right now is that Wiggins maybe turns into a better pro, but obviously you're not going to judge based on what they've done for the last 10 months. You're judging based on what they're going to do for the next 8 years, and it's really hard to decide. I would say Wiggins.
Wiggins, who do you take, Mike?
Jabari Parker went to Duke, right?
Yep.
Yeah, there was a number one player taken from Duke a couple years ago.
Kyrie Irving.
I believe that they will put the two Dukies together, and Coach K will have probably his two only number one picks. I don't know another Duke player that went number one under Coach K. And I think they'll both be playing. No, I don't think Elton Brand went number one.
No.
So I think both these guys will end up on the Cavaliers, and I think a lot of it, unfortunately, is because Joel Embiid had the surgery, and as Dan mentioned earlier, Portland Trailblazers, Greg Oden, Sam Bowie, injury-prone big guys. Anybody could look at those two cases in NBA history and go, a tall guy gets an injury before the draft, I'm not going to take him.
The other thing with
how far does he
scares me off.
He's still top 10 probably, or top 15.
Yeah, I don't think he goes after 10. I think he goes somewhere between 6 and 10, but I don't think he's top 5.
But I think you have to assume, Cleveland's had the number one draft pick like 18 years in a row now. They have to start winning at some point. And I think that drafting a guy with an injury history who is currently injured is probably not the best way to start winning immediately.
Yeah,
that's a good point, and right on time. Good. Let's move on, guys, to the Nationals. And we're going to lead the show with the Nationals before LeBron made his news this morning. The team is hot. Well, they've won 3 anyway, 3 in a row. They had lost the first 2 against Atlanta, and everybody said, here we go again. They can't get over the hump. With their 4 and 5 starter on Saturday and Sunday, they shut down the Braves. And then they go out to Milwaukee and have a shutdown performance from Gio last night against one of the best teams in the NL and win that game. Mike, could this be the moment we look back on if the Nationals win the NL East as the turning point, as the team's starting to get healthy and they sort of face down that Braves jinx or curse or whatever you want to call it?
Yeah, I don't know, because I always like to look back on these moments and say that, but if they were 6-7 games up, it'd be one thing, but it's still very much nip and tuck right now, and so look, if they lost one of those Braves games, would you say the other way around? Like, oh, this is where the Braves got 3 games on them, or made up 2.5 games. So I don't know if that, but I do know this. I do believe I think they have the best bullpen in baseball right now. I think Storn and Clippard have been great. He's done a little bit of everything. He's very multifaceted. He'll give you an inning there. He'll get a batter here or there. And so I think for me, I just want to see consistency in offense. I want to see some of the relievers take a 5-1 lead into the 7th instead of a 2-1 lead or a 3-1 lead. I just think it's very dangerous right now to put all that pressure on a bullpen that's in some ways been overperforming.
The bullpen's certainly been great. Starting rotation's been excellent. Dan, was this weekend?
No, I totally agree with
how
Wise. I feel
significant?
like over the last 2 years, you have asked on this show 15 times, hey, was this a turning point for the Nats? I mean, we thought 2 weeks ago they went to the West Coast and got off to a great start. Oh, is this a turning point for the Nats? Then they lose 4 straight, including 3 straight to the Cardinals.
They won 8 of 10. They looked tremendous.
Yeah, and it's exactly what he said. I mean, the offense didn't do anything yesterday. There was a 3-run homer, right? I mean, we need to see Ryan Zimmerman start hitting. He's been a streaky hitter his whole career, but the streak hasn't started yet. Bryce Harper, is he going to come back and be okay with the thumb? Is Wilson Ramos going to come back and have the power still? But they need some off. I mean, the staff is incredible. The pitching staff is incredible. The bullpen's incredible. But you still, at some point, you have to score more than 3 runs a game to win.
I know we talked a little bit about it last time I was on this show, but are we positive what's going to happen with the lineup now when Harper and Ramos come back?
Well, that's
I think that's a real log jam. That's a real log jam.
It is a real log jam, and I think
the most logical solution is still Zimmerman at third, and Zimmerman in Barry Svrluga's column over the weekend made it pretty clear that he will do what he's told to do, but that is not his preference.
He's a team player. He's got to be at third at some point, just so the Nationals can make the determination as to whether or not he can. That's even
he doesn't
an
have to be a third. He made it clear he's happy as he's been in years in left field. Right. He can't perform the position anymore.
But what Adam told us a couple weeks ago on the show is that it's likely to be some sort of a combination of third base, left field, first base maybe if LaRoche needs a day off, even though he's their best hitter right now.
Yeah.
It's going to be a combination. It's going to be a real challenge for Matt Williams.
Anyhow, the point is,
I think it's going to be a challenge for Ryan Zimmerman to throw from the corner.
Yeah,
I agree with you. If the guy's telling you, and he knows his body better than anybody, and he knows what he can do and what he can't do, I don't know how you don't weigh that into your decision as a manager.
Well, you got to give him another chance there to see if he can make the throw, don't you? That's your best hitting lineup. You take Espinosa out and you have Rendon at second.
He basically told Barry, I can't make the throw. I can't do that anymore. Yeah. I mean, so I don't know what giving him a chance to fail would be.
You think that means that he doesn't play a third again this year?
I mean, maybe extremely infrequently, but it's obvious that he does not want to do that for multiple reasons, and it's taken a huge toll on him over the last 2 years. I don't see why.
And he's looked better than I thought he would in left field.
Yeah. Not a huge glaring weakness.
And he hasn't done anything to cost the team runs the way he had a third. Anyhow, to your point, I think when they lost those first 2 games of the Braves, you were thinking like, hey, this is maybe where the season goes down the toilet. They salvaged that. Obviously, I mean, it's one 4-game series in June. They didn't embarrass themselves, but they still got a split at home against a team that had been totally scuffling. It was no great achievement.
Way to throw cold water all over
the Braves have been bad for.
No, you're right. And they have a 2-game lead now. The Nationals do, and they're about to get as healthy as they've been all year. Knock on wood. So we'll see. This could be the moment that they sort of assert themselves and take that bigger lead.
Yeah, if they put some distance between themselves and the Braves, great. But yeah, if you're in this town, especially after last year, you got to see it to believe it.
Right. All right. Let's move on, guys, to the World Cup.
A lot of stuff on the show today.
Yeah, we're rapid fire here.
It's not a dead
Dan,
summer.
you wrote a post on the blog the other day about, I think it was something that Senator Dianne Feinstein said about the World Cup. Is that correct?
John Feinstein, the Washington Post.
Oh, it was John Feinstein.
Famous columnist.
That makes perfect sense. That makes a lot more sense.
Are you being serious?
Yes, I am.
Wait, you know the World Cup schedule, but you don't know the difference between Dianne Feinstein, the senator, and John Feinstein, the annoying
my
sports
job crosses
columnist?
over into all the areas of this newsroom. It's funny how that blends itself. Anyway, so Feinstein says, what did Dan, what did Feinstein say?
You were joking. I like John a lot. And it was just a question on the Junkies, on 106.7 The Fan. They just asked about the buzz around this World Cup, and he said, people will care as long as the U.S. is involved, and when the U.S. gets eliminated, people will stop caring. Obviously, a random Italy-Ecuador game is not going to get the kind of massive rating that we saw from that Portugal-U.S. game. But I just think, to me, sports fans that I know, sports fans of my age who follow sports regularly, who watch ESPN all the time, they are going to follow this event to the end, certainly. And I think the final has a chance to be the most watched soccer game in American history. But regardless, people were going to watch these games, and in 2010, the ratings actually increased as the rounds went on, even though the Americans were eliminated.
Don't we all have those urban chic friends too that bought their FC Barcelona jerseys and they're Brazilian, which is great, and a lot of them are real fans, but stop already. Look, if soccer is so big in this country right now, and it has come a long way, how come we import all the announcers? How come we import all the analysts? Do you see this? Does Dave Johnson could have a job somewhere? He calls DC United. He's a very good soccer
You know what?
announcer.
I think it's a fair point, but I think it works generationally. So now the kids who are growing up with the World Cup, a huge part of their everyday lives, will be one day trained to be international broadcasters.
No, I think we'll always import these guys. It's like going to Rosa Mexicano. Do you ever see anybody making the guacamole named Cody or Dylan? No, it's not authentic enough. So it's profiling. So we profile these announcers. The equalizer. Shut up. Maybe an English-speaking announcer from America could have that job.
25 million watched the U.S.-Portugal game. Does it even come close to that number on Thursday for the Germany-U.S. game?
No. I mean, part of it is the time. Like
Timing,
Sunday at 6 o'clock is the absolute perfect time for ratings, and Thursday at noon is not. But to Mike's point, I think no one. I mean, I know you're joking a little bit, but I don't think the question is whether or not soccer is big. I think the question is whether or not the World Cup is big. The World Cup is sort of like the Olympics now. It's a massive event
He's right.
that people pay attention to, even if they don't love the sport on a day-to-day basis.
I watch Ecuador, Mexico, Ecuador, Honduras the other day. They're great games.
That's the question. Are the casual fans who are just watching the U.S. games, are they going to be drawn in enough to watch that Italy-Mexico game in the next round once the U.S. is out?
I think they will. And I think that people talk about MLS ratings. I don't know if there's going to be an MLS rating jump, but I think for something like Euros, which is every 4 years opposite the World Cup, I think people will pay attention for high-level soccer like that.
The biggest, best thing that happened to them, ESPN bought the rights.
Yeah.
I mean, you're going to watch it.
Well, it's going to be Fox starting 4 years
from now. Well, Fox, a major network has the rights. It's going to be front
Sunday
and center.
night's broadcast on ESPN. Now, granted, it's Sunday and it's perfect viewing time, but the number one rated non-football broadcast in ESPN's history. It's pretty impressive.
Very close to like the BCS championship game from last year, which is just considered
way more than the World Series.
And we still imported the coach.
And my wife. I was trying to explain that to my wife today. She didn't understand. How can he be the U.S. coach if he's German?
He knows.
All right, my bold predictions, guys. U.S. Germany, a lot at stake. The U.S. still, there's a chance they could not advance because of how things could play out. Lots of different scenarios. If they tie, they move on. If they win, they move on. Same for Germany. Give me a bold prediction.
What was my bold prediction last time? Do you remember? Did I get it right? What was my previous bold prediction? Do you remember? No.
It was an overall World Cup prediction.
Okay.
You might have said that the U.S. goes through.
No, I don't think I did. LeVar did. This is what I got.
Who else in America is making bold predictions on U.S. Germany?
I think a lot of people are thinking this could be a very conservative defensive game because both teams sort of have it best interest to play for a tie. I think that there will be actually at least 2 goals scored in the first half, which would be more first-half goals than we saw in U.S. Portugal. So at least 2 first-half goals.
At least 2 first-half goals. I like it.
Jurgen Klinsmann will play a half for each team, like Pele. I think the U.S. win this game. I think they find a way to win this game, and it's one of their finest moments. They win. They not only go to the next round, they win their group for, the first time in forever.
If they did that, they would avoid Belgium probably in the second round and play a team like Russia or...
By the way, how did Belgium get so good in soccer?
It's interesting because a lot of people think that, there can be Klinsmann's German connection. They both need a draw. They move on. It's not going to work that way. It never works that way.
It doesn't, but it'd be great for both teams if they played. Boy, the Ghana-Germany game the other day. Did you see that game?
There's going to be more. I agree with Dan. I think there's going to be more goals than people expect. I'm going to actually go 4 goals or more
for the game.
In the game total.
I just want to hear the English guy go, Bastian Schweinsteiger.
I do think that the Americans will finish second in the group.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, a lot has to happen to knock them out.
Closer.
They have to get beat pretty bad and then have Ghana win convincingly over Portugal, most likely. All right, let's move on, gentlemen.
Not necessarily true.
There's several different scenarios.
Can I make an admission? My mother was from Germany, Würzburg, West Germany, the same time. My son's got a German World Cup soccer uniform. He's wearing it Thursday. It's kind of a traitor move, isn't it?
Yeah, how do you let that
3.5.
Otto Porter, we're totally off the rails now, but Otto Porter was wearing a Cristiano Ronaldo jersey before the U.S. Portugal game.
Really?
Otto Porter.
That's worse than Bryce Harper wearing a Cowboys hat.
I think Otto's got like a Portuguese aunt or something.
All right.
We'll ask him about that.
Portuguese aunt from Missouri?
I'm not sure, yeah.
At least Harper grew up in, did he grow up in Texas?
Vegas.
He was a Cowboys fan.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on. Let's move on to the Caps, gentlemen. And we caught up with Neil Greenberg. The Caps schedule was released yesterday. We caught up with Neil Greenberg on his thoughts on the Capitals' schedule next year. Let's hear from Neil.
On Monday, the NHL released its schedule for all 30 teams. Here are the 5 things that I'll be looking for the Washington Capitals this season. Now we know that the Washington Capitals will be having their season opener on October 9th against the Montreal Canadiens. The Montreal Canadiens surprised a lot of people when they ended up taking the New York Rangers to a 6-game series in the Eastern Conference Finals. On November 7th, the Washington Capitals will be traveling to Chicago to face the Chicago Blackhawks. This is going to be the first and only game before these two teams meet in the Winter Classic on January 1st. On January 16th, Barry Trotz and the Washington Capitals will travel to Nashville to play the Predators. This will be the first chance Barry Trotz will have against his old club, where he was the head coach before coming to Washington. Perhaps the most difficult stretch for the Washington Capitals will come in February, when they play 14 games in 27 days. 2 of those will come against the defending Stanley Cup champion Los Angeles Kings. They'll also play Anaheim twice, Philadelphia Flyers twice, and also the Pittsburgh Penguins twice. During February 11th to 17th, they have an especially tough stretch where they'll play on the road 4 games in 7 nights against San Jose, the Los Angeles Kings, Anaheim Ducks, and also the Pittsburgh Penguins. The Washington Capitals will play 9 of their 14 remaining games in March at home. They have a 5-game homestand that will include games against Minnesota, Buffalo, the Rangers, the Dallas Stars, and the Boston Bruins. So if they end up needing a playoff push towards the end of the season, there's a pretty good chance that they'll be able to do it at home.
All right, Mr. Steinberg, what stands out to you from the Washington Capitals 2014-2015 schedule?
I mean, I think there's one obvious giant blot on the schedule that we're all going to be looking at all season, but I'm going to let Wise talk about that one. And I'll mention what Neil said right at the end of there. The fact that they have so many home games packed into the end. You know, the last couple of years they have been a stronger team at home and sometimes a befuddling team on the road. So, I mean, they have to be one of those teams that you don't want to play in their rank, and they have to take advantage of that. But with the way these NHL regular seasons go down to the end, every year every year there's 15 teams fighting for playoff spots right at the end of the season, so might as well be at home and ride that momentum, I guess.
It's nice of you to tee that up for Wise.
Yeah, I think the diehard fan will pay very close attention to the first couple months of the season because of Barry Trotz, because of see how Alex Ovechkin was going to be the left wing, right wing, who knows, and all the things that are going to happen. I think the casual fan, the sports fan that's sort of preempted with the football team and what's going on with the Wizards will look at the Winter Classic. And that's often a measuring stick, like, okay, now we got to start paying attention to the NHL. And it's going to probably be at Nats Park. And who are they playing? The Maple Leafs?
The Chicago Blackhawks, a different original 6 team.
Why did I say the Maple Leafs?
Not sure.
I usually keep it in America for the Winter Classic.
Yeah, So the Blackhawks, I believe, did not win the Stanley Cup this year.
That's correct.
Yeah, they won it last year. So they're really good. So I think it's going to be a really good.
Does the president show up to that game?
What's that?
Does the president go to that game if it's at Nats Park?
No.
As a Chicago guy? No?
No, he's not a hockey guy.
No?
It will be, I mean, whatever. I think this probably goes without saying, but it will be bigger than almost any playoff, maybe than any playoff game this team has played. Washington loves events so much, and this is going to be just such a massive event. The ticket prices are going to be astronomical. People are asking for on the secondary market. It's going to be great. It's going to be awesome.
I guess if his approval ratings are the same.
Will you cover that,
maybe.
Mike? Will you actually go to show up to write about?
Do you know how many Washington Post employees are going to get credentialed for that?
If Obama goes, yeah, I will.
If Obama goes, that's the barometer. For
it is a little unusual though that it's been.
No, I'll go. Is it New Year's Day?
Yes,
typically it's played on.
I mean, you want me to give up New Year's Day?
It has a lot of good football.
A little bit unusual that it's so late in the game we still don't have an official venue.
It is weird, isn't it?
It makes you kind of speculate about some of the people that might be involved in the negotiation for such a game.
Go further.
Oh, I don't know. I'm just a guy sitting here on stage, but I think that we've seen people from Nats ownership have interesting negotiations with other local parties in the past. So. Get on that.
Field,
you think the learners are cheaping out again?
No, I did not say that at all. I'm just saying we've seen that they've been interesting negotiations.
We'll see what happens down
there.
All right, last topic, guys.
Not.
We're all over the place, but let's do one more for that. Of it. Last week we were off on vacation, Mike, but the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office's decision to cancel the Redskins trademark. The question is that a moral victory for Native Americans, or does it represent something much bigger?
I think it's a big moral victory, but I think I don't know. Do I think it's a significant legal victory? If they win on appeal, yeah, it is. And I think people are saying, well, the merchandise common law the more you hear about it, I think it's less about the merchandise than states can now enact tax-exempt laws in which they would charge them. I think if they put the appeal process out 8-10 years, and they legally wanted to hang on to the name, the team probably could find a good exit strategy. But to me, it's as I said in my column, it's just part of a larger drumbeat that keeps going, and it doesn't go away, and it keeps it in the news, and it makes them look bad.
Dan?
Yeah, I don't think there's any question that it's more symbolic than practical. But I think even the lawyers for the plaintiffs had said the name is not going to go away based on whether they have the trademark or not. Yeah. But it's exactly what Mike said. Whether ordinary Americans are changing their opinion in large numbers is almost irrelevant right now, because people who can get themselves in front of cameras are changing their minds and are being really outspoken about it. And the more kind of news stories like this happen, the more people are going to ask questions to people like Terry Bradshaw, who's a pretty well-known voice for NFL football and was on Larry King's show talking about how he thinks the name should go. I mean, this is a guy that, thousands and hundreds of thousands of people watch while they're watching NFL football. I'm not saying that he's going to really change people's minds, but it gives the impression that there's this kind of inevitable momentum, I think, in that direction.
It makes a great point. It's become the lazy media story, where really it has. Like, people can just go, okay, we got to ask about this name. It doesn't matter who it is. They were asking Shane Battier and Ray Allen in the Heat locker room during the NBA Finals before the game, because they both are a little socially conscious, and which is fine. And I think it's obviously I'm pro name change, so it's great. But part of me is like, yeah, there's a lot of people who've sort of got in on this thing and said, this is the latest. This will get clicks. This is what people are talking about, and I think that's bad for the team, only because it just foments the whole notion of, okay, what is really going on there? People educate themselves a little bit. I mean, he tweeted out last night. They talked about it on Raw.
It was on WWE Raw.
WD Raw.
It was also on
Vince McMahon wrote it into a script.
It was also on The View last week. And the Raw and The View are pretty two different audiences, but both it's kind of substantial. I don't know that it actually does anything to pressure the team to change, but it certainly gives the impression that there is kind of a momentum about it, and I think that hurts them.
How long are you going to keep up the fight where your own fans are going to have their product compromised at some point? There's going to be one young player who goes, I got more free agent options. And if I'm a fan at that point, I'm out.
That could be the real game changer. All right. Well, that's a good succinct way. We met our time and somehow kept it under 30 minutes today, guys, despite having like 16 different topics we talked about. For Dan Steinberg, for Mike Wise.
Shout out to Dianne Feinstein.
Shout out to Dianne Feinstein.
Senator, Congresswoman.
Senator Feinstein. No relation to John Jr. All right. Thanks for joining us on Post Sports Live. We'll see you next Tuesday. We'll talk about the Nats at full health, maybe, with Harper. We'll see what Matt Williams is going to start doing.
Hi, LeVar. Thanks for watching.
Thanks for showing up, LeVar. We'll see you next week. Yeah.